what are the pros and cons of working in the podcast industry versus working in the music industry?
Pros and cons. So in the podcast world, there's more work, and there's more consistent work, and it's better paying work. So you get consistent, because if you get on board with someone's podcast, they're going to have more than 1 or 2 episodes, right? Like, even you say you got your own person now, like they're in it for like a while, you know, and unless they either can no longer do it or the show ends, but it's usually long, steady work. This is what's good about podcasts, and audiobooks is the same way. It's a nice large chunk of work. You get like a 10-hour book, and it's a huge check. You know what I mean? It's just, it's solid work. So that's the reason why that became my day job, is because there's more benefits in it than, you know, music, where you got to hunt down work. Music, you have to hunt it down, find it, convince the people that you're the best person for the job a lot of the time, because, you know, music is subjective. We just talked about what we liked about music, and somebody might not agree at all with what we said, and that's totally fine, because there's no rules to music. So that's another thing. There's no rules in music. And podcasting, I have standards that I have to meet. There's no rules in how it sounds per se, but there's certain specs that I have to hit. Music has specs too, but people sometimes ignore the specs more, which is kind of weird. Like, they still ignore the specs from time. It's odd. So music in general, audio in general, is kind of in a weird space technically, but I just feel like it's a little bit more straightforward over on the side of podcasting and audiobooks. Like, here's the specs we'd like to hit. Here's what most people do. Where music, it's like the wild, wild west. Where music is better though, and you could probably agree with this, music is super creative. It's so much fun. Like, there's nothing like creating a record or making a song. Like, it is so fun. It's like addicting to a certain degree. Like, you know, I'm making beats right now. I was in the process of making a beat. I started a beat, and then all of a sudden I played an instrument that didn't go with the beat that I was working on. So then I opened up another session, put that instrument down, and started a whole nother beat. Yeah. Completely forgot it. I was making another beat, and then was like, oh, I got to go back to the other one. So it's just like this wonderful world. It's like ideas just be, you know what I mean? You can just throw out ideas and just throw things against the wall. If it work, it work. If it don't, just delete it. And it's great. It's fun. It's fun.
That's like the comparison of copywriting. Copywriting is marketing writing, is writing ads, is writing sales emails, and it's steadier work, it's higher pay work, there's specifications, there's formulas. Whereas writing a song, I remember co-writing a song with my best friend. We're just throwing out lines, throwing out rhymes, throwing out ideas. She's the melody girl. We're doing the hook, and like, yeah, it's addictive and it's so fun. But the copywriting is steadier. It's more straightforward. You can not be feeling well or be tired and still write copy because there are formulas. But like, to write a song, for me at least, or a poem, you got to kind of be in your flow and be feeling it. But yeah, it's very similar. Even though it's two different worlds, it's a similar comparison.
It's that part though. The part of having to be in the mood that makes it scary, because it's like mental health is a real thing, right? Like, what if I'm not feeling it for like a month? Yeah. Am I just going to be broke for a month? Like, you know what I mean? So there's that fear of like, I would love to do this every single day, but part of me is like, I could do, you know, you could do the copywriting with one eye closed and one hand tied behind your back. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things you could just do. So that's what podcasting and audiobook is to me, to a certain degree, unless I was doing the sound design, which we talked about, but that's not what I do. I make things, it's formulaic, very formulaic.
Actually, and this is really important to highlight for everybody. So many people, me included in the past, sometimes like in the present to some degree, but I realize it's dangerous, have this dream of doing just all creative stuff 100% of the time, 24/7. But with those ebbs and flows of creativity, and I'm certain I have way more dry periods than you, like, you're like, what are you going to do? Are you going to be broke? Are you just going to be without work? And so it is good to have something that is more commercial, more formulaic, and more steady, because it frees you up to be able to fund that creativity. So especially young people, or I keep like bashing these course creators, but people are like, buy this course so you could do just one thing and be totally free 100% of the time. It is good to have some stability and some professional work, even though people are selling the dream of like absolute freedom. Sometimes freedom is having that stable formulaic work on your table too.
Facts. Yeah.
So, what can podcasters and musical artists do to help their audio engineers produce good audio for them?
So I saw this question, and I think that the one thing I think they can do, and this is going to be weird, we kind of talked about it, but the one thing they can do to help us is trust in the process, right? And trust in the professional. A lot of times people have ideas of what they want things to sound like, an end goal, but it's not coming from a place of someone who understands audio.
Mm-hmm.
And the example I'll give you is before I got my tattoos, I had all these ideas, really cool ideas that I was going to do. I said I wanted to have some lettering in my arm, but I want to make it look like it's like stomped into the ground or like it's cracked. Cause I'd seen it before. I was like, oh, that looks so
Mm-hmm.
cool. And my tattoo artist was like, I could do that, but your letters would have to be really big on your arm. And you have a really long quote. So you probably don't want it. It'd be huge in order
Yeah.
to see the detail. And I was like, what happens if you do it small? And he was like, if I do it small, he said, ink bleeds. So like over time, after you get the tattoo, the ink will bleed. That's why the edges don't look as defined on older tattoos. But a
Mm-hmm.
good artist will know that, and they'll make it big enough to where it'll bleed, but it won't look bad at all. And so he was guiding me into having tattoos that would be long lasting and that would look good forever. And so he's like, don't do that because I don't think it's going to look good. Now I could have been like, nah, but this is what I want. And then when it actually went bad, I would have went back to him, which is people do this and be like, why does this look so bad? I told you why it looks so bad. It's too small. The ink bled, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I trusted him in his process. It's the same thing in audio. I want to have, 3 people in a room talking on microphones. How big is the room? Oh, it's just a small room that I have upstairs. That's going to be tough because all the microphones are going to pick up everybody. It's just something you might not have thought of, right? Like you're like, well, we got the microphones, we talking. It's like, no, but if you guys are laughing and talking loud, we're going to be able to hear that through everybody's microphone. There's going to be a lot of bleed. We can do it, but it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
You guys are better off doing it over Zoom. You know what I'm saying? It might not be as good, but it'll be cheaper because each audio, I don't have to do no noise cancellation on your audio. So it's like, if you really believe in the process and trust in your professional, he's going to save you, he or she, if they're good, is going to save you money on whatever it is you're doing, and it's going to sound better. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the advice that I would give. And the same thing is for musicians. Just trust in the professionals.